الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today's topic is considered one of the most important topics in regard to Muslims living in the West, and maybe one of the most controversial topics. And this issue has a lot of ramifications on lives of Muslims in the West, as I'm going to shed some light on, inshallah. But basically, there are two theories. One says that Muslims in the West don't have to respect or regard any law. This is a non-Muslim country ruled by a non-Muslim government, and therefore Muslims are not obligated to follow the laws of the land. Unfortunately, though this theory is not that legitimate among scholars, but sometimes it does find some followers who do all kind of fraud under the disguise of this theory that I don't have to abide by any law here in the West because it is a non-Muslim country. Something that would definitely impact the image of Muslims in the West and may even tarnish their image. On the other hand, there is another theory, and this theory is supported by our mainstream scholars, Sayyid Sistani and other scholars as well today. This one says that Muslims in the West have to respect the law of the land, they have to abide by it, and they have to be loyal citizens, and they have to comply with all the regulations and requirements set by whether the government or any other establishment in the West. And therefore, it will be haram, a sin, to go against the land of the law. In one case, you don't have to abide by the law of the land according to this group, Sayyid Sistani and likes, is when the law of the land comes into a direct conflict with the Islamic law. In this case, obviously, we're not supposed to obey any individual when it comes to disobeying God. God comes first. So for example, if the US government asks me to kill someone that I believe is innocent, he doesn't deserve to be killed, then I'm not allowed to kill that person. Or the government asks me to do some injustice to someone who, in my views, does not deserve that injustice. Someone who is innocent. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Someone who is innocent. Or someone is asking me that I would testify in the court against someone whom I wholeheartedly believe he is innocent. I'm being asked allegedly by the government to testify against this innocent person. In this case, I cannot do that because this goes directly against my belief and my conscience. But other than this case, our scholars believe that Muslims living in the West must follow the law of the land. Now, Sayyid Sistani uses a powerful weapon to prove his point. And this is his reasoning for following the law of the land. He offers two reasons. One is Islam is against chaos. Chaos is how? Spell it? C-H-A-O-S. So Islam is against chaos. That's something, self-evident. Islam is against chaos. By me going against the law of the land, I'm going to create chaos and chaotic situation. And Islam is against it. So for example, if I don't want to follow the traffic rulings, what's going to happen? Not only chaos, I may cause the death of some innocent people. So therefore I have to follow the law of the land, because doing otherwise will bring chaos, will bring death, destruction, etc. That's one reason. The other reason, and think about it a little bit, it's a good reason, but let's see if it's very inclusive. He says, when you came as an immigrant to this country, you signed a document called visa, immigrant visa. In the immigrant visa, you agreed at the US Embassy that you follow the law of the land. And therefore, in Islam, we have a ruling, says when a Muslim pledges to something, he must follow through. If I pledge to give you something, I have to follow through. If I signed on a paper that I will be responsible for the damage caused to you, if I cause them, I have to, because my pledges are sacred as a Muslim. I have to follow through. Al-mu'minuna 'inda shurutihim. This is what the Prophet says. Muslims preserve their pledges and stipulations. Therefore, since I signed when I got when I got my visa, my immigrant visa, I signed on the paper that I will and I raised my hand. Some people say, but I did not take oath with the Quran. You don't have to take oath with the Quran. Who said you have to take oath with the Quran? Any pledge you make, it's binding, whether in the Quran or not in the Quran. Because there is something more important than Quran, and that is God Himself. So when I make a pledge before God that I'm going to follow this, those laws and regulations, I have to follow through. And therefore I cannot break my pledge and my promise. So two reasons he offers for Muslims in the West must follow the law of the land. What's wrong with this one? If you think for a second, what's wrong with the second reason?
Maybe it's a tyrannical government and you were a refugee, you had no other choice?
No, there are always choice to stay in Syria and not come here.
It's not a smart choice.
But not if all Muslims signed on that. Only the immigrants. Yeah. What about those who were born in this country, born and raised? They didn't sign any agreement. They didn't sign any, contract. So then the only way for us to make it binding is to go with the first reason, for those who are not born in this country, who are not immigrant and never signed any agreement, whether in the embassy or elsewhere. To say Islam is against chaos, is against murder, against destruction, and therefore by you going against the law of the land, you will be definitely heading toward chaos and destruction. Therefore, you cannot disobey the law of the land unless it comes into a direct conflict with your faith. When I'm asked to do something haram, to kill someone, to target someone, to imprison someone innocent, or to punish someone who doesn't deserve punishment, innocent. If that's the case, then it's a different story. But most laws and regulations do not come into a direct conflict with Islam, with our Islamic teachings. Therefore, according to Sayyid Sistani, yes, you must pay your taxes in this country. You must follow the traffic rules and regulations. You must follow the immigration, laws. When you come in, you have to go through the immigration office, and you cannot go and forge a fake visa to enter the United States. You cannot fake your document to come into the United States. You cannot smuggle something that's illegal in the United States. If they told you you cannot smuggle weapon, you cannot food, fresh food, you cannot smuggle it because this is against the law of the land unless you declare it. But to smuggle, according to Sayyid Sistani, is haram, and you cannot do this. Yes, brother.
So a couple of friends of mine have asked this question: is it haram to serve in the U.S. Army or Navy or something?
Again, serving in the U.S. Navy or U.S. Army is just like serving in any other army, in the Pakistani Army, Indian Army, Iraqi Army. If the army I am serving is doing the right thing, asks me to defend the land, defending my land is not a bad thing. I need to defend my land from the intruders, from invaders. But if my country asks me to go and attack another country, an innocent country, that has done nothing to me, nor to American people, nor to any innocent person. Now, that's a different issue. So, maybe under the just war, what is the just war? That's a different topic, inshallah, I will leave it for another time. The country we're going after may not hurt us as Americans. But for example, if you remember in 1993 when the US and NATO forces launched a war against Yugoslavia, that was killing the Muslims in Bosnia. Now, Yugoslavia did not attack the US, right? So as an American soldier, Yugoslavia did not attack me as a country, but they were attacking innocent people. And as a moral police, as someone of people of conscience, I have to defend the defenseless people. So I believe that particular war was okay. For me as an American citizen to go and participate, that was okay. But you ask me about other wars such as Vietnam or Iraq, I'm not sure if they were justified or not. If that was a just war or just for denomination and homogeny. You see my point? So it depends. We have to, analyze those situations case by case. In some cases, I see, yes, there is a just war. There is a just war. And in some cases, it wasn't a just war. So there isn't any, one label that I can paint all those wars and the entire career of working at the army. So sometimes the army in the US may dispatch me to a just war, and sometimes they may dispatch me a war that is not justified, just like any other country. If I were to live in Iraq, for example, under Saddam Hussein, and Saddam Hussein ordered me to attack Iran, am I supposed to attack Iran? I'm not supposed to attack any other country that has not invaded my land. So, serving in the American Navy or Army in general is okay, unless if it takes me to engage in a combatant, duties against people who are not who are innocent, and they are not supposed to be targeted by me or by my country, then that's a different issue. Okay. So that is the first thing we need to keep in mind, that the general law is we have to follow the law of the land unless it comes into a direct conflict with my religion. Based on that, it is not permissible for anyone to leave something on the public road that could cause harm to the pedestrians and others anywhere in Muslim and non-Muslim countries. I go and put something in the road that causes pedestrian or cars. I put a block, cement block right in the middle of my, neighbor street. And a car, not seeing it, smashes and get killed. Someone would get killed or get injured. That's haram. I cannot do this. Also, it is not permissible for a Muslim to post bills or write or engage in other similar activities on the outer walls or billboards that are owned by others, except after obtaining the permission of the owner. We have to also be mindful of respecting the ownership of others. In some Middle Eastern countries, and I'm not going to name which, maybe many of them, not one, there is a very bad habit for people, for graffiti. People have this spray and they write graffiti on any wall they see, in any wall. This wall is not yours. This is not yours. Who gave you the authority to write graffiti on this wall? Have you asked yourself this question? Have you asked yourself, before spraying this wall with any slogan, with any chant, ask yourself, who owns this wall? If you, Ali Lakhani, own this wall, go ahead and spray it with anything you want. But if it's not yours, if it's not mine, who am I to go and write graffiti? I need to get the permission. Did I get the permission? In most cases, no. People write graffiti on people's property thinking it's okay. It's not. If you go to Italy, I have been to Italy, in many places you walk, you see there is graffiti on the wall. So, and I'm sure nobody asked for any permission. See how Islam, how particular Islam is about people's property and people's possessions, that you have no right to infringe on anybody's freedom, on anybody's property, and on anybody's, domain. So this wall belongs to me. If you want to write something on my wall, you need to ask for my permission. Whether the owner of the wall is Muslim or non-Muslim, it doesn't matter. Same thing if there is a billboard. I just go ahead and post something on the billboard. Who gave you the authority? Well, this is a non-Muslim country. So what? Even if it's non-Muslim country. Even if it's non-Muslim country. Who gave me the authority? Who made me the Lord of the land to go and post something on my own on the billboard? I need to ask for permission. Whether it is a privately owned or owned by the government, I need to ask. Because the bottom line, it's not mine. And since it's not mine, I'm not supposed to do anything with it beyond my authority. It is forbidden for Muslims to betray the trust of someone who has entrusted him, or them he meant, with an item or a deed, even if that person happens to be non-Muslim. That's another issue, my dear brothers and sisters. With the credit fraud, I have seen, unfortunately, some Muslims taking charging on their credit card or withdrawing an amount, cash, 10,000, 20,000, then he would refuse to return it, the money. Why? He's non-Muslim. Okay. Even if he's non-Muslim, who told you it's okay to take his money and not return it? If non-Muslim gives me his cash or his property as a trust, I'm supposed to handle it as a trust and give it back to him as trust. I cannot violate that trust simply because the owner is non-Muslim. It doesn't make any difference whether the owner is Muslim or non-Muslim. I still have to respect the ownership of that person, the owner, over his property, be it Muslim or non-Muslim. Unfortunately, it's been happening. It's been happening among some fraudulent Muslims, uneducated Muslims, who are looking for any excuse to commit fraud. But this is not an Islamic excuse. No scholars will permit something like this. Yes.
Okay, let's say you really did, like, you have credit cards and you couldn't pay them no more and you did bankruptcy. Is that haram too?
We said, if you remember, sister, we said going against the law of the land is haram. Right? That's what we said. Now, if I am really bankrupt, I lost my money. Not that I shipped it to the Middle East secretly. No, I withdraw money and I lost it in my transactions and my businesses. Now, what does the law of the land say? They say go ahead and file bankruptcy. You go ahead and file bankruptcy, and the law will deem you as bankrupt. There are certain rules applying to the bankrupt person. He's not a criminal, but obviously he is restricted. My movement is restricted. This is not against the law of the land. This is with the law of the land, within the law of the land. If I'm really bankrupt and I really lost my money, and the law says to me, since you already lost your money, you can go and apply for bankruptcy, and I did, I'm not doing anything against the law. The problem occurs when I'm not bankrupt. I took this money, somehow I shipped it overseas, and then I go and pose as bankrupt. So the law doesn't know what I did behind the scene and under table. They will tell me, okay, you're redeemed because you're bankrupt. While in fact, I'm not bankrupt. I didn't lose the money. I just shipped it secretly somewhere else, and I pretended I am bankrupt. This is haram. Yes.
So how do we see the riba here, the interest in the non-Muslim country?
Okay. Riba is haram. And this is something I was going to go and mention about it. So what is riba? Riba is usury, interest. So riba, I want to buy a house. Obviously, I don't have the cash, enough cash to buy my house. I have to take a loan from the bank. And when I take a loan, 200,000, I have to pay interest. Paying interest and taking interest, both haram, with some exceptions. I will go and talk about it later on. Now, Sayyid Sistani says, when you apply for a loan, you have to pay the interest. But he changes the terminology. So it's not interest anymore. How? He says, when you apply for taking the loan, don't intend you are taking a loan. Do not intend that you're taking a loan. Intend you're taking a gift. Gift? It's not a gift. He says, fine, I know it's not gift. But you intend in your heart as if the bank gave you a gift. Now, if I take a gift from you, sister, am I supposed to give you any interest? No. It's a gift, right? That means I take the loan from you. Listen to this. I take the loan from you, and it's not a loan. It is what? It's a gift. Now, do I have to pay you interest? There is no interest to begin with, because interest is part of what? A loan. There is no loan. There is a gift. That means I'm not obligated to pay interest, because interest is haram, right? Okay. What about the interest you're going to pay anyway, right? Will you refrain from paying? He says, no, don't refrain, pay it. It's not going to be interest. It is going to be a mandatory payment by the law, just like tax. Don't you pay your taxes? On what basis we justify paying our taxes to the government? It's the law of the land. I have to comply with the law of the land. When the bank sends me the payment, the question, can I not pay this payment?
No.
No.
Oh, you can not pay, but you lose your house.
I may end up in jail, right? By law, I have to. By law, remember, by law, I have to, right? Remember the golden rule Sayyid Sistani said. Muslims have to abide by the law of the land. This is the law of the land, therefore I have to pay this interest. But I'm not paying it as an interest, in my opinion, because there is no interest to begin with. I took it as a gift. So I have to pay it just like paying the tax.
So same thing, if bank is paying me interest on my account.
That's a different issue. When it comes to interest, receiving interest from non-Muslims, given interest is haram, okay? But we have an Islamic ruling saying that you can accept interest from non-Muslim. On what basis? On the basis that for the non-Muslim, this transaction is not haram, it's not prohibited in his eyes, in his views. It's legal. Because it is legal, I go with it. Let me give you another example. I'm a Muslim. I sell meat. Now, not pork. I sell meat. Non-halal meat. If I sell non-halal meat to you as Muslims, am I doing sin or not? Yes. Because to you this is haram and I'm selling it to you. It has no value for you. Because legally, Islamically, you're not supposed to eat it. I know you're going to go home and eat it, but you're not supposed to eat it. Since you're not supposed to eat it, it has no value for you. Therefore, I cannot sell it to you. But if a non-Muslim buys it from me, can I sell it to him? Yes. I can sell non-halal meat, chicken, beef, lamb, to a non-Muslim who believes it is okay for him to eat this meat. It is not okay for you to eat this meat. It is not okay for you to eat this meat. It is not okay for Abbas to eat this meat. Therefore, I'm not allowed to sell it to him. But since he's a non-Muslim, in his mind, he can eat this. It is okay in his faith. I can sell it to him. So I'm judging the person according to his faith. When it comes to taking interest from a non-Muslim, I ask the non-Muslim, is it okay if I take this money from you? So yeah, completely okay. That's how our country is running, on interest. So I take the money from him. Why I can't pay him? Because in my religion it says you cannot pay interest. You see the difference between the two? Don't confuse this with hypocrisy. This is not hypocrisy. You are applying your rulings on yourself, and with the Christians you apply the rules on them.
So if I'm selling the meat, how would I know the buyer is a Muslim or
You ask him.
I have to ask him?
Well, if you know, you don't have to ask. But if you don't know, you ask him.
If you don't know, you have a restaurant and you sell non-halal meat and you're a Muslim, and maybe in a state where, like in another...
There aren't many Muslims.
Yes.
It's okay. But if you see someone you suspect he could be Muslim, you need to alert him. You need to alert him that this is not halal meat. Okay. So, now.
Let's say if I have a non-profit organization and I want to make meals, like a soup kitchen or something, do I have to buy halal meat?
Can you repeat that, please?
If I have like a soup kitchen,
Okay.
and I'm serving any person who's homeless, do I have to buy halal meat and serve that?
And your client are Muslims or non-Muslims?
Doesn't matter, they're just homeless. I don't.
If they are non-Muslims, you don't have to buy halal meat. You can just buy from Kroger
Yeah.
and you give it to them. But if you,
Kroger is cheaper than.
I know. That's why I'm saying go ahead and buy it from Kroger. But if there are some Muslims among those homeless, you need to alert the Muslims that this is not halal. You cannot serve them. Either you don't serve them at all or you serve them halal. But if all your clients are non-Muslims, or I live in Minnesota in a neighborhood that all non-Muslims and I am selling, I have a restaurant or I have, supermarket, I can sell non-halal meat. But not khinzir though, remember. Pork, I'm not supposed to sell pork to anybody. Same thing, wine. Alcohol, I'm not supposed to sell. You may tell me, but the Christians drink it. I say, I know they drink it. I am not supposed to deal with this object at all. I'm not supposed to touch it. I'm not supposed to sell it to Muslims or non-Muslims. Why? It's intoxicant. It's not good. Same thing with pork. Pork is dirty. So I'm not supposed to, just like selling drugs, I'm not supposed to deal with it. But with non-halal meat, I can sell it to non-Muslims because in their faith, they are not doing anything wrong by eating it. So I can give it to them and sell it to them. So here, we go back to the loan. If I am supposed to take a loan, I take it, but I don't intend it's a loan. I intend it's a gift. But then eventually I have to pay the interest, not as an interest, because I really don't believe I have to pay. There is interest to pay. But I have to pay it because by the law of the land, I have to pay those bills. Otherwise, I have to face severe or grave repercussions, and I don't want to. I don't want to be delinquent, basically, so I can pay it.
I cannot use that interest money which I get from the banks or the organizations here and then use it for charity or help.
You can. It's yours. You can do anything with it. Anything you want.
In the name of God.
Yeah, it's yours. It's halal money. It's halal money.
So you have a question?
No.
Like taking the loan, you said it's a gift.
Yes.
What if and the payment you have to pay it? Let's say you owe still on the house $30,000.
Yes.
I want to send the payment of $10,000 of what I owe on the house, but I got it as a gift. I didn't get it as a loan. Can I still send $10,000 instead of the payment that's on my?
Yes. Because eventually you have to pay the 30,000, whether today or 10 years from now. You have to. So the sooner the better. And in fact, the sooner you pay, the less interest you pay, right? So yes, you can do that. Okay. So let's go to the other issue that we need to he says it is forbidden for a Muslim to betray the trust of someone who has trusted him with an item or deed, even if that person happens to be non-Muslim. It is similarly obligatory upon a Muslim to safeguard the deposit that has been given to him and give it back in full. I work at a gas station. The owner of the gas station is non-Muslim. He says, whatever money you get, you give it to me. I take $1,000. I have to give him how much? $1,000. The same amount. I cannot take $1 from it. Why? This is a trust, and Islam is against betraying trust, no matter who the trust belongs to. And therefore, one who works as a cashier or accountant is not allowed to betray the employer and steal something that is under his control. I work as a cashier. Can I take something from my boss and take it home? A box of napkins or milk or cereal? No, I'm not supposed to do this. Why? Because this is betraying a trust. We said betraying trust is haram, period. Doesn't matter who the subject is, Muslim or non-Muslim. Yes?
What if it's something that you know or think that they wouldn't mind
If you know they don't mind, that's fine. For example, after 10 p.m., some supermarkets, they just give away some of their, yes. If I know that's the case, I can take it. But that's not considered stealing. We're talking about stealing and betraying the trust. Okay. So, it says it's neither permissible to steal from the private as well as the public property of non-Muslims. It doesn't matter whether being it the private property or public property. Something belongs to the government, I go and steal from it. I cannot do this. It doesn't matter. Nor vandalize it, even if that stealing or vandalizing does not tarnish the image of Muslim and Islam. There are no cameras, nobody will know. Even if there is no camera and nobody is watching me, can I still steal? No. You cannot steal, even if it does not tarnish the image of. It's not only about tarnishing the image of Muslims. It is about you doing something haram. Something immoral. Stealing is immoral. Cheating is immoral. Lying is immoral. It doesn't matter who you cheat, who you lie to, who you steal from. Those are immoral acts. Okay. And he says, even if it does not tarnish the image of Islam, such an act is counted as a perfidy and violation of the guarantee given to non-Muslims directly when one asks permission to enter or reside in the country. And it is forbidden to breach the trust and violate the guarantee in regard to every person, irrespective of his religion, citizenship. He says, remember, when you came to this country, you agreed to respect the law and you gave this guarantee. Again, we said, even if you have not signed that, you're still obligated. Why? Because not doing so will lead into chaotic society. Our society would look like a jungle where the powerful preys upon the weak, and that's forbidden. We cannot accept it. Islam does not tolerate something like this. Same thing when a non-Muslim comes to a Muslim country. Christian visits Muslims in Iran, in Iraq. Are Iraqis allowed to steal from him? No. Because stealing is what? We agreed stealing is what? It's haram, period. It doesn't matter who you steal from. Stealing is haram. Okay. Now there is another issue that some Muslims go through, and that is, I go to the social welfare office and I say, I need some help, cash. How would they know if I am qualified or not? Based on my answers. They ask me, do you work? I say, no, I don't work. Indeed, I do work. And I get paid under table. So based on my answer, they will give me the cash or they don't, right? Am I allowed to give false information to the authorities in order to get that cash? No. I'm not supposed. Why? Haram. Giving false information is what? It's haram. I'm lying. Islam did not say, okay, lying is haram only when you lie to non-Muslim, it's okay. Islam never said that. Islam says lying is haram, period. It doesn't matter who you lie to. So if I, through offering false information, obtain cash, this is haram. Or a lady goes, as it happens often in our community, she goes to the social welfare office and she says, I'm divorced. My husband divorced me. They tell her, okay, since you're divorced, this is $1,000. In fact, she's not divorced. She's divorced in the American, but not in the Islamic. So she takes the money and she's still with her husband. Her husband thinks he is cheating out the government. His wife is posing as a divorcee while she's not divorcee. Is she allowed to say something like this? No, haram. Because she's giving false information. She's not divorced. And when they ask you if you're divorced or not, they are not asking only about the American divorce. They are asking if you really live with your husband or not, if your husband is providing for you or not, if you're halal for your husband or not. That's what they mean. They are not only asking about the paper. Therefore, giving this information is haram. Based on that, the money you are taking, what you're doing is haram. Okay. Now, what about Muslims in the West buying insurance, life insurance, car insurance, house insurance? Is it haram or halal? Yeah, halal. Buying insurance is not haram. Life insurance, home insurance, car insurance, any type of insurance is not haram. You can buy it. However, you cannot give false information. So they tell you, what is your zip code? In order for you to get a cheaper price, you give a different zip code that you don't live in. Is that halal? Haram. Some people say, well, like Trump says, I'm a smart businessman. I know how to avoid giving more money. Well, you can avoid giving more money as long as it is legal. It's through legal channels. But when you lie, that's not legal. So I cannot lie to the authority and give them a different zip code than mine just in order to reduce the price of the insurance. That's haram. Why it's haram? Because it's lying. Lying is haram. Or because it's cheating. What did we say about cheating? Cheating is haram, period. Cheating. There are three things keep in mind. Stealing, cheating, and lying are haram, period. It doesn't matter who you steal from. It doesn't matter who you cheat. It doesn't matter who you lie to. Lying is haram. Cheating is haram. Stealing is haram. So if one of those, concepts takes place, you're doing haram. It doesn't matter if the person is Christian, Jew, or even atheist. It's haram. You cannot do that. Okay. Now, if I give false information to the insurance companies, I can get more money from them. How? Let's say I had damage in my basement, and the insurance company is about to compensate me. So they tell me, okay, list the items damaged. So I list all the items damaged in my house and in the house of my neighbor and the second neighbor and 40 other neighbors. I list all of them and I ask the insurance to pay it, and they don't know, so they eventually will pay it. Is that okay?
No.
It's haram. By me giving false information to get a higher price, higher benefit from the insurance is haram. Now I know what some people will say. You know what? Those are the biggest scam themselves, the insurance. That's not an excuse. That is not an excuse. That doesn't allow me to cheat. Doesn't allow me to cheat. That doesn't allow me to steal. I'm still stealing. I'm still cheating. I'm still lying. No matter what the other guy does, they say in English, in America, 2 wrongs don't make 1 right. So if the other guy is doing something wrong, that doesn't mean I am allowed to lie. I'm allowed to cheat, or I'm allowed to steal. Okay. Now, one more issue and I conclude. What about election? That's another important issue. Very important issue that we have some Muslims wrangling over. Some people, see what bothers me, honestly? You find some kids who just finish breastfeeding, 16, 17-year-old, and he acts like an ayatollah. He acts like an ayatollah. Oh, this is haram. You guys are doing this. Come on, who are you? Know your limit. Know your limit. We have some really cuckoo individuals in our community who take the law, the religious law in their hand, and they issue fatwa. It's haram to go for the election. It's haram to vote. Who are you? Who are you? Tell me, who are you? Who gave you this authority to give fatwa? Allah in the Quran says, Allahu adina lakum am ala Allahi taftarun. Did God give you the permission to speak on His name? Who gave me the permission to speak in God's name? When I say this is haram, that's a big word. Unless I can support it and document it by a powerful evidence and document, I cannot say it. وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَا تَصِفُ أَلْسِنَتُكُمْ الْحَرَامِ هَذَا حَلَالٌ وَهَذَا حَرَامٌ. Allah says, do not lie by saying this is halal and this is haram simply because you want to say so. Halal has a ruling, haram has a ruling. Not everybody can issue fatwa. First of all, I'm not a scholar. I'm talking about those kids. You're not a scholar. You're not mujtahid. You're not mujtahid. And you cannot impose your mujtahid, the marja' you follow, you cannot impose it on others. Because maybe you follow A, I follow B. You cannot come and tell me you can't do this when my marja' says it's okay. So unfortunately we have so many of those, firebrand in our community who always make hypes out of nothing. So when it comes to election, we see everybody becomes an ayatollah and everybody issues a fatwa. This is halal, this is haram, this guy, you cannot vote for this. So what is the ruling on that? What is the ruling on the election? Are we allowed to participate? And who are we supposed to give our vote? Sayyid Sistani presents two criteria. Where is the... Sayyid Sistani presents two criteria for you to participate in the election, to vote, becomes halal and okay. One is there interest for Muslims in the election or no? Meaning, we Muslims, is it in our interest to participate in the election or not?
Yes.
Okay, so number one is yes. Yes, there is interest. Obviously there is interest. Because in this country, the only way you can influence the law is by political contributions, money contributions, and by voting. You cannot influence the law by weapons, by screaming and yelling and shouting. That's only one of two ways: voting and political money contribution. So yes, obviously there is interest for Muslims to participate in the election. The other criteria, Sayyid Sistani says, and listen to this, your decision for who to vote for must be based on the expert opinion. Meaning, when you tell me vote for this guy or don't vote for that, are you an expert? Are you expert in politics? Are you expert in religion? This requires two individuals, someone who is expert in politics, someone who knows the background of the candidates, he knows their stands on various issues, someone who is well versed with the political landscape, and also it requires a religious scholar who can check the Islamic issues. So someone who lived here, a Muslim scholar who lived in this country, he knows the history of this country, who knows the dynamics of this country, he will give lend his support to one candidate against the other. With this condition, that if I, as a Muslim citizen in this country, verify the first point, which is there is interest for Muslims, and number two, I am guided by the opinion of experts. And who are the experts? someone from my community, the Muslim community, who is expert in politics and who is expert in religion. He knows the halal and he knows the haram and he knows the Islamic values. By those two criteria, yes, Muslims can go and participate. But if there is no interest at all for Muslims, example, Palestinians in Israel, there is no interest for them to participate in the election, because by them participating in the election, all they do is they legitimize the occupation. They are not supposed to participate in the Israeli election. Or there is, like the case here in the West, there are 6 million Muslims. You want them to be marginalized? Obviously there is big interest. There is a big stake for them to participate in the election. But they need some guidance. Without the guidance of experts, our vote will be divided, will be misrepresented. In fact, it could cause some more division. So if we go as one block vote, guided with the opinion of those who are sincere and scholars in Islam and in politics, we can make a big difference. So with those conditions, Sayyid Sistani says yes for politics, yes for election, Muslims are allowed. Inshallah, we'll continue next week bi'idhnillah. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.